All right, good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome into NFT Live on the Web3 Network, also known as the Yuga Lab Show, also known as the Alfalfa Podcast, also known as the show where we're going to talk about Bitcoin NFTs and give you all the latest info that you need. So, really great round of characters I have here. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Is it Merc?
Mark is fine.
Merc. I like Merc. But, I
got Merc. I've never heard Merc before. Mark is totally fine.
Okay. All right. So I've got my cast of characters and Mark here as well. I'm excited for this episode, boys. Biggie Poppins, thank you again for bringing in a wonderful guest. We're excited to hear all about the NFT meta that's happening or has happened on the Granddaddy blockchain and where it's going. So Biggie, I'll start with you, and then GIF. I want to hear how GM Web3 was going this morning.
Man, I'm excited. This has been going on for quite some time, as I'm sure we'll hear from Mark. But I'm just happy that it's getting the spotlight it rightfully deserves. Not sure about the particular protocol it's happening in yet. I'm not very informed on it. I'm sure Mark will be able to elucidate on it. But BTC NFTs, I think, are something that people should be paying very close attention to. And so, thank you, Mark, for joining us today. It's going to be a good one.
GIF, give me your take, man. How was GM Web3?
Oh, it was another amazing show. John Marlowe, we got to shout him out real quick. He's a Tez expert. At least, there's no experts in the space, blah, blah, blah. But he's been really, really deep down the Tez rabbit hole for some time, has a really deep connection to it because of some personal health stuff and, really crazy, hackathon he did around hacking his own genome that kind of helped him find the blockchain to, create an elegant scaling solution for all of that, genetic and medical information. And now he's like really, really into it. So he came and he educated us more about, the values of Tezos, why Tezos matters. And we got deep. Like sometimes we're high level talking about monkey JPEGs in the Yuga show. Sometimes we're talking about blockchain governance and fucking transactions per second and Mumbai upgrades and all that type of shit. But the goal here is to be chain agnostic and educate our audience on what's going on. Try and make this a valuable experience for everybody. But nothing, in my opinion, Q, says chain agnostic, like hopping out of one show about Tezos into another one about Bitcoin. Here we fucking go. I'm happy to be here with y'all.
We're going to get deep into the Bitcoin conversation quickly. We're going to have quick news after Bitcoin NFT talk because we have Mark here for just about an hour. So we want to make sure we get everything in. For those of you that are listening to us afterwards on podcast, we appreciate you joining us via like Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that good stuff. If you're on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube right now, we see you guys. So I'm going to give a quick shout out to Prodigy. He was here first. Nox Darkness. Mike Erlinson still asking us to cover A Kid Called Beast. Feels like
we got to do it today because, dude, it's pumping right now, and I know nothing about it. And like, dude, we should have called it and been talking about it a month ago when it dropped because now it's up to like a 0.74, 0.64. We got to talk about a Kid Called Beast, even if it's at the end of the episode. Let's look into it.
Okay, Saigo is here, Carter and Asmodai saying regional time of day to you all. Folks, we do this every day at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. We appreciate you joining us today. And if you are here for the first time, leave a sub. If you're not, you already know what to do. Hit the like button. We appreciate you so much. Okay, tough to know where we're going to start with this conversation. Mark, I want to get a little bit of your background here, but my first lightning question to you, you are an NFTs on the Bitcoin blockchain, so I'm guessing you're not like the oh, I'm getting some feedback there.
Strange.
Real quick, so I see you have to unmute and mute. I'm guessing you're not like the like blockchain maxi, or like Bitcoin maxi, right? Like you're okay with us degenning on Ethereum sometimes. I just want to get that out of the way real quick. Are you a Bitcoin maxi? do you hate all other chains and it's only about Bitcoin?
I'm going to put my headphones on because the feedback will be annoying for everyone, and I'll be 1 second putting those on.
Okay, I think it's just because Mark didn't want to answer that. That's
yeah, that was convenient. Convenient timing.
But it's fixed now. There's no feedback, and I actually still heard that as well. I am not a Bitcoin maxi. I think I used to be, but I used to be back when Bitcoin was the only thing that existed, right? So I've been holding Bitcoin since 2012, 2013, thereabouts. Was purely an accident, really. So I'm a startup founder, and back then I was going through as an accelerator. And back in those days, startups were raising sort of $15,000. You were straight out of university. You piled into a loft with 40 other people, and it was like, who can try and build something? Right? No one knew what they were building or anything. It was basically just a whole bunch of hackers trying to build a business. It was crazy. And there's always one person. There was always someone in every loft, in every startup hub, that was just the crazy guy talking about crypto and Bitcoin and telling everyone back in 2012 that this is going to change the world. And almost everyone in those circles bought some, and it wasn't easy to buy at the time. I think I actually, I bought my Bitcoin and my Dogecoin through actually like an OTC UK bank transfer transaction. It was totally illegal at the time, but like there was no way to buy it easily. So no, I'm not a maxi. I own a Bored Ape. I've been in ETH NFTs just as much as I guess Bitcoin NFTs.
Let's go. We got another
chain
ape
agnostic.
I feel like that's a rare character trait to have in the Bitcoin community. I keep hearing how like nothing should exist outside of Bitcoin and like self-sovereign money, and nothing else can be used on the blockchain. There should be no other utility.
Well, we've struggled with this as a project. So I founded a project called Megapont, which is a Bitcoin NFT project, but it's on Stacks. So Stacks is like a L1.5, L2 chain that writes its transaction history to Bitcoin, so it's secured by Bitcoin. And for the longest time ever, the maxi crowd has had some strong pushback against Stacks for a number of reasons. One of them, it's either there was a pre-mine, it's got a token that isn't Bitcoin. Or just a whole number of reasons. They've called it things like affinity scams, that it just attaches the Bitcoin name onto it to try and ride the coattails of Bitcoin. And most recently, we've had ordinals. So I guess I'll start off with what the hell are ordinals. So if you're seeing Bitcoin NFTs on your timeline right now, for the most part, people are talking about ordinals. So ordinals are, I guess, a nice and clever way to assign data to a specific Satoshi. So a Satoshi is the smallest atomic unit of a Bitcoin. And Casey, the I guess the founder and the developer behind Ordinals, produced a protocol, put something open source out there that was like, hey, you can now put a JPEG in a Bitcoin block or an SVJ or HTML or whatever you want, whatever data you want, up to 4 megabytes. And you can say, I'm assigning that to a specific Satoshi, right? So you can kind of make Satoshis somewhat non-fungible. And it was really interesting and novel because, one, it's quite cheap, right? Like, Bitcoin is expensive to do transactions, but if you try and store a 4 megabyte JPEG on Ethereum, then, like, damn, I don't even want to know how much that would cost. Whereas on Bitcoin, it's like, oh, this is $4? Like, what? This is, like, for real? So it kind of took a whole bunch of people away a bit. They were like, oh, this is quite interesting. Like, we could put ridiculous amounts of information on the Bitcoin blockchain, right? Which theoretically we all think is going to last forever, right? And it is on there. It's no IPFS, there's no Arweave, there's no file pointer. The data is on chain. So that's what you're hearing at the moment, ordinals. Now, there's a whole bunch of limitations around that. Bitcoin isn't built for smart contracts, right? So in order to receive those, you need a special supported wallet. And people are like, why do I need this? Well, it's a Satoshi. So if you receive it in your normal Bitcoin wallet, which you can do, say I want to send Biggie, $10 in Bitcoin, my wallet could be like, oh, actually, I'm sending you that $100,000 NFT as the transaction fee. So not only does Biggie not actually get the NFT, it's burnt, right?
I think the term in DeFi and CeFi is commingling funds.
Yeah, commingling of your NFTs with your Ethereum. The equivalent would be, you receive a Bored Ape from someone, and when you go to send ETH to Binance to cash out and pay your bills, you accidentally send your Bored Ape, and then you market sell it for US dollars.
That'd be awful.
That would be great, but there are people are working on the wallet layer for that. So I don't want to say it's a small problem, but it's just one of the downsides of trying to build like pseudo smart contracts on top of Bitcoin. Now to go to Stacks, and where I think this is good for projects like Stacks, blockchains like Stacks, which is smart contracts on top of Bitcoin, is Hank, NKY, actually put out a bit of a proof of concept repo earlier today, which is like trustless swaps for ordinal NFTs. So because Stacks can natively read Bitcoin blockchain, what you can do is you can say, okay, I'm going to offer Biggie 1 Bitcoin for this Bitcoin rock, and I'm going to lock the equivalent balance in Stacks, in a smart contract on Stacks. And then anyone, either party or Biggie, can say, okay, this has happened now. So I can say I've sent this NFT to the wallet that he wanted it, and Stacks can read the chain to see if that transaction has happened and then pay out. I can take the funds out. So I think you're going to see a resurgence of smart contract, these sort of L2 smart contract layers on top of Bitcoin, where it's going to really empower this sort of decentralized NFT-esque ecosystem that we see on Ethereum. Because whilst ordinals are fantastic, like Bitcoin as a scripting language, and I've said this multiple times to people, like the NFTs that we have, the ordinals, they're probably the worst implementation of NFTs on any chain. And the reason for that is there's no smart contract support, right? So there's no native restrictions on how many can mint or setting prices or who can transfer to who or any of that stuff. The equivalent we have is even worse than, say, the V1 of CryptoPunks, right? Which were ERC20 tokens. It's like us assigning a JPEG to a specific Ethereum at the moment.
A lot of great comments coming through. I want to get Biggie Poppins and Gifted in here as well to ask you all the questions. Mark, we're going to hit you with a ton today. We got our thinking caps on because we want to learn about the protocol and everything that's happening. Biggie and Gif, I'll give you guys the floor here. And also, if you guys see any comments, Mark, you have a ton of questions happening in the chat as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, full disclosure, I am a holder, minter, day one of Mark's projects. By the way, we should give him his flowers too, because not only can he develop on Bitcoin, he also is a dev on Ethereum as well, of a separate project called Apollo. Had to do that, Mark. Shill away. Anyways, but I've always been attracted to the concept of NFTs on Bitcoin. Like we've stated here before, Hal Finney mentioned them long before they were a reality. So, you know, for the Bitcoin maxis that hate the concept, it's just always been there, right? This is obviously the Lindy effect chain, the first one. It's never been hacked. Like if you want to talk about security, there's nothing more secure than it. Mm-hmm. And so the ability to be able to hold valuable assets on it and scribe them, if you will, it has always just been very attractive to me. Now, having said that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Mark, but like, so I didn't know 4 megabytes were like a substantial amount of data, considered a substantial amount of data to be able to put on the Bitcoin blockchain. But from what I've seen with ordinals, and what I see a lot of people doing, is kind of like the equivalent of like people going and putting a sticker in the bathroom of the bar or something like that. Like I was here, and like what I see a lot of people doing is like taking their PFPs and inscribing them on the ordinals blockchain. It's like, I mean, I get it. It's kind of like, okay, I was here kind of situation. But to your point, Mark, like I don't see people creating like let's say an actual project for it. And it's because of what you mentioned, that it doesn't have the smart contract capabilities. And so to me, like seeing stuff like, say, like a generative art, like the equivalent of a squiggles on that is not possible. Whereas with Stacks, it is.
I think there's an interesting comment there, which is it is the equivalent of taking US dollar and taking a pen and scribbling on it. And that's a good analogy. Like Satoshis were never really meant to be non-fungible. But you can attach data to a specific Satoshi, and with correct wallet support, you could move it around, and you could do some really clever things with like partially signing signatures and so on and so forth. But I think one of the ways that I've spoke to a few people, and a lot of investors have called me up, and like they have the whole big bags of stacks, and they're like, "Do I need to be worried?" And I think we're just seeing the naivety of the NFT space as a whole. They see that you can put pictures on a blockchain, and first thing they do is they put pictures on a blockchain, right? It's like, oh, I can now put an ape on Bitcoin. I'm going to put an ape on Bitcoin. right? And they don't really
Probably
think
naked
about
pictures. or
Yeah, and
something
you,
like
there
that.
was some
Yeah.
pornography on there. Like you can imagine, right? If you could put pornography somewhere, someone's going to put pornography somewhere. And I think it's just not fully understanding the potential for what this actually could power, right? So a good example of this is we all use IPFS. Well, most projects use IPFS for their metadata. Like you could just replace that with a pointer to Bitcoin now, right? So you could replace IPFS with Bitcoin. So your data for your NFT, your metadata for your NFT might now become a standard where instead of you go to an Ethereum NFT and it has IPFS link in the URI, it might have like BTC dot 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 slash slash, right? And it links to your Bitcoin. Now becomes a place where metadata is stored, right? It's probably cheaper than putting it on Ethereum on chain, and it would be there forever, right? So there's all sorts of possibilities around, okay, if we can make Satoshis non-fungible, let's remove putting images on there, because we don't put images on Ethereum. You can do that right now, but we kind of graduated from that and said, okay, this is a really bad idea. Just because we can do something doesn't necessarily mean we should. And I think we're at that stage now with ordinals where everyone's just DJing like, hey, I'm going to put all these JPEGs on Bitcoin. And I think the community will evolve, and next logical step is it becomes metadata on top of Bitcoin's blockchain. And then you'll probably see some sort of centralized exchanges and marketplaces that enable lazy minting and all of that stuff. It's very exciting, and it's like when any of this stuff happens. The same with like ENS digits and even NFTs in Ether back in 2021. There's a bit of gold rush right now, and everyone's trying to figure out how can we make some money trading these things. One thing I will say is, if you think being scammed in ETH is easy, like you have to do OTC for everything right now with ordinals, and OTC trading is inherently so risky, and that's where the griftiest of grifters will sit and try and scam you out of anything, right? So someone will say, I own this Bitcoin rock and I want 1 Bitcoin through it. Send it to my wallet. You send them Bitcoin and you're like, where the hell's my rock? Well, guess what? Your due diligence wasn't as good as you thought it was.
Mark, I've got 1,000 questions. I'm sure Gifted and Biggie do as well, and we have a lot of cool comments coming through. A couple housekeeping pieces as we continue through the episode. NFT Live tweet is there. If you guys can go and help us get as many people into this episode as possible, that would be awesome. Quantum Variant, thank you for the reminder. You're awesome. Gif, I'm sure you have a bunch of questions. Everybody does. Let's see what you got to think.
Sorry, I'm over here eating because I don't get to eat during our other morning show. Okay, so I love, first of all, the analogy of like right now it's sort of like the scribbling and the the black book sketches and tagging on a bathroom wall, but eventually that street art or whatever you want to call it, it ends up in a fucking museum, and it will grow over time as people understand it. But right now people are just fucking throwing their names up and shit. I think that's really cool. But so it sounds like to me, like, let's say hypothetically speaking, Mark, that I had a really, really dope, badass OG Ethereum project called DBs, and I wanted to move all of my art on chain. Now an option for me might be to actually put our art and our metadata for the DBs on Bitcoin instead of Ethereum. And that would still work somehow, like across chain. Like I could just point to Bitcoin for additional security. And that might actually be more valuable.
Yeah, there would need to be support at the reader level or like the consumer client level. So, if that became a norm, then OpenSea would need to add it in the same way like IPFS, right? IPFS doesn't just magically work on the internet, right? If you build a website and you just put IPFS for the image link on your website, it won't work. You'll need to install a library to pull that data down. So there's no reason that it might become, I'm not saying it's going to, but it might become the norm that we now start storing data on the Bitcoin blockchain. And maybe we see some standardization and protocol around what happens to those Satoshis, right? So maybe they're all burnt, right? So they can't be like read with some validity unless they're burnt, i.e. like the ownership, there's no concept of ownership of those Satoshis. They just kind of existed at some point and we assigned data to them and we can still say that data was there. And there was a comment here that, can you overwrite them? I don't believe so. I don't know the answer to that. I'm almost certain that you probably can't, but you can accidentally spend them far too easily right now. So Like I said, I could send Biggie 10 ordinal NFTs, Satoshis, and he might send one of his Bitcoin to an exchange, and those Satoshis are included in that, or they are paying the fee.
This is really interesting and adds another layer to the game to me. And that's that. So Dookey Dash, as you know, we're going to turn this into the Yuga show today, probably a couple different ways. I was playing Dookey Dash last night. I signed in. I got a couple sewer passes that I bought off of the secondary market, and people had already played with those. So even though they reset with my new score, they already have their Bored Ape or their Mutant Ape in this situation imprinted onto those sewer passes, and you can't change it. It's done. It's imprinted. That metadata, whatever is imprinted from those mutant apes that they played with first, that is on that token, on that sewer pass. And I speculate, frankly, that that's going to actually impact where all the evolutions go, but we'll see. That's all.
I agree with that, by the way. On the Yuga show, I do agree with that.
All right. So here's what's interesting about Bitcoin now is that as you should know, hopefully at this point, but like most of us know, there is a limited finite supply of Bitcoin, especially when you think about how much has been lost or burned over the years, or is in wallets that can't be opened. So maybe there's 17 million Bitcoin. I don't know. I'm making up an arbitrary number that will ever exist. And that also limits the number of Satoshis. This means that actually, like, there's only so many sats that can ever be imprinted. And once they're imprinted, they're locked forever.
Yeah. The one problem with that is I think it's like 21 quadrillion. So we get to another.
Okay, so it's so many, but
so
even
many,
to your point,
hard to comprehend.
To your point, it has to, that Bitcoin though, in order for it to be valuable as an NFT and not just get like double spent or spent on accident, has to actually be kind of locked away or custodied in a way and reserved. Maybe that's a better word. For NFTs.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to solve that. I don't know how they're going to solve it. They'll probably, the naive way to begin with will be like at a wallet level. You can imagine that if a marketplace develops for ordinals, there'll be some similar to like OpenSea where you authenticate with your wallet. You'll authenticate with a ordinal supported wallet, and in order to receive them, you'll have to link a wallet that they recognize as being supported. So it will be like, I want to say like user guided, like hand holding them down a path of where they can't actually do anything wrong or put it in the wrong wallet. Like if you send an ordinal to like your blue wallet on your phone, you're in a little bit of trouble, really. I wouldn't do it with anything valuable. So it'll be solved with UI and UX layer for the time being, which just isn't quite good enough. It has to be done at a protocol level, realistically, for there to be any real capital injection into ordinal NFTs. Until then, it's just a whole bunch of people having a whole lot of fun. And there's a lot of money to be made in fun as well. And I did comment on that and said that to someone. They're like, well, if this is fun, why is the price going up? Well, guess what? People make a whole lot of money when things are fun.
I want to get to a lot of some questions here in chat in like a lightning question fashion, because we're getting a ton that I think are valuable. Nice. As far as it's related to ordinals itself, I'm interested in like the micro process of what's happening, right? Like you said, it's only an OTC process. What does that look like? And in just from my layman's understanding, like, is this all of these Satoshis coming from Bitcoin that hasn't been mined yet and is being mined? That's where the Satoshis are coming from, or is it coming from Bitcoin that other people own? I'm having trouble understanding that portion of it. Say, for example, you decide one day that I want to mint 100 ordinals. So you'll go through the process of setting up an ord wallet. You can go to Casey's Twitter account to find links to the repository to do so, and you'll fund a wallet. And one of the reasons that I don't think you've seen these take off so much is one of the requisites to doing this is you have to have a full Bitcoin node fully synced using his library. Now there are tools popping up. I think Brian from SuperBowl actually made a little web app that means you can very easily just take a JPEG, upload it, and he'll pay the fee for you and put it on as an ordinal, like in a sort of OpenSea-esque lazy minting way. But you need Satoshis in your wallet, and it will assign whatever data you want to inscribe on that ordinal to a specific Satoshi that you have. And that's pretty much how it works. So it's not mining them from new Satoshis. Like when you mint an Ethereum NFT, it comes from the 0x address, right? It's created. That's the whole point of what's actually happening. Whereas these NFTs come from original Satoshis, and that's a different little bit of game theory. Actually, it's quite interesting. If you grab some Satoshis from like
some of the early mined Satoshis from like 2012, even earlier than that, and then put an NFT on them. Not only do you have an NFT on it, you could have like Satoshi number like 1 million, right? Or even lower than that. So there's an additional layer where you can increase the value of the NFTs.
Is there a market? Is there a market for like where you can buy?
Oh, well, digits is massive, right? Like, of course, like if you imagine if you had Satoshi 69 and you put like some degen NFT on it, like, that thing's going to be worth an absolute fortune. So of course, yeah, there's going to be like people love digits, and like how easy is it to like Satoshi? Like I said, there's 21 quadrillion. If you own a digit that's easy to refer to and put something valuable on it, it's like, oh, I own Satoshi 69, and there'll be some wallet somewhere one day where anyone can check what NFT is prescribed to Satoshi 69.
Okay.
And there's like a whole like rarity market developing, right, Mark, where people are like, depending on when the Satoshi Bowl was mined or where your NFT is placed, whether it's in the beginning of the block or at the end of it, they take a premium for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see all of these different tools pop up in the coming weeks that are like, hey, we can create your ordinals NFT, and we'll do it using low-numbered Satoshis, or maybe they've all got 69 in the end or whatever, right? Which is kind of cool. It's certainly, the space is moving really, really, really fast. And I think there's a few good questions. Are these like truly native on Bitcoin? And yeah, yes, they are. Like ordinals are about as Bitcoin as you're going to get. More so than saying like a Bored Ape is on Ethereum. Like the actual data, the image in all of the instances of ordinals currently is on Bitcoin. On every node in the world, every full node that someone's running in the world, that image is on there, right? So if you've got a full node and you've been syncing your node in your living room for years and you're so proud that you're running a Bitcoin node, well, guess what? You've got all of the NFTs that all the degens are putting on the chain now on your node in your living room. So fully distributed, the most secure. I called it as a joke originally. I was like, this is the most distributed, secure Dropbox server that the world could have wished for, right? It's like, hey, I've just put this image everywhere.
Clip that, Jacob.
And I think like that's so important when you think about like things like newspapers, like groundbreaking editorials or stuff, like where it's like very sensitive information and that you want to make sure it's never destroyed, right? You can post them up there, and I mean that's as decentralized and robust as you can get. Can you imagine that value, right?
The Twitter papers,
Panama Papers, stuff like that. I mean, there's places where people have a very hard time, carrying that information eventually to a secure source where they can finally like be revealed to the world. If you can put them up on Bitcoin, I mean, that's really, really valuable.
There are downsides to that as well, though, right? Like I put a tweet out about this. What happens when someone inevitably puts child porn on the blockchain? And this isn't just a problem to Bitcoin, right? This is on like you could do that on Ethereum as well. You could do it on any of these immutable distributed data ledgers that exist. Any other blockchains have to deal with this problem. And no one's really figured it out right now. We don't have Section 230 for blockchains. So for those who don't know, that's basically law that says, Mark Zuckerberg isn't personally liable if someone posts child porn on Facebook. It's not him that's done that, right? It's not his fault. It's the individual who's done that. That doesn't kind of exist for blockchains. So then does every node runner become like liable for the image they've now got on their computer in their living room?
It's like when you send Ethereum and terrorist groups use it, are the nodes responsible? That's been brought up.
We don't yet have like some real, like I guess like a legal framework for how we deal with that, right?
This is interesting, right? Because it's a similar situation with distributed IP, like and NFTs in general, right? So like, again, with our projects, when we launched DBs and WitchyGF, but that was subsequent. When we launched DBs, we went through the process of creating a unique custom licensing agreement that we published that basically just says like, look, we're sharing these parts of our IP. When you own a token, this is how it works, spelling it out, even how we were actually the first project to launch a licensing agreement with distributed IP with a burn clause actually in our licensing agreement. That's a fact. That's real. But the thing is, like, one of the reasons why we did it, and the most important part, was saying, hey, yes, we're sharing our IP, and you can do whatever you want, except if you do something really egregiously fucked up, like make it a symbol of hate or something like that, then we can and will take some kind of legal action against you, right? But to your point, like, what do you do when somebody writes it onto an immutable ledger like Bitcoin? What do you do?
There isn't a good answer for that
Yeah.
right now. Like I think there's some clever minds in Ethereum that are trying to do something where you could like only include blocks from a certain height on your node, right? If like prior blocks were known to contain bad information, then you can basically say, I want this data, right? You have to opt in to receive known bad bits of information. So maybe like that's something that happens. I don't know the answer to that. It's something that some people are gonna have to figure out when
Can you?
inevitably something bad happens.
I mean, we know that you can quote unquote burn Bitcoin by sending it to a burn wallet or like something like that where it can't
It would
be
still exist, right?
accessed.
Because
But
it
it
would
still
still
exists.
exist.
But is there a way to kind of like put to basically censor?
Hard fork.
I mean,
You would have to
you
hard
don't
fork. You'd
want
literally have to
that.
hard fork the chain.
Interesting.
It would just.
It would
I
be
feel
as
like
dangerous as that.
I feel like the
Yeah.
regulation would center, and then same way that regulation centers around the Coinbases of the world, the regulation would be around the applications showing the images, not the actual blockchain itself, because that's the only thing they can control.
Yeah. But that gets a bit tricky because it's like, well, what if I'm running a full node and I can pull it? Right?
Yeah.
Like I can pull this image. I think the answer will probably happen. That's in my idealistic world, there's the node software contains a list of known bad hashes or blocks that still exist. We acknowledge that they exist, but in order to request them on your node, you have to explicitly opt into them, right? Like you have to say, I'm willing to accept this data on my node. Yes, I'll acknowledge that they exist. But even then, like there's all kinds of like mathematical and cryptographically related issues doing that. So look, there's no good answer to this, but one day someone is going to have to figure this out because something bad will happen on, it might not be Bitcoin, it might be Ethereum, it might be Solana, it could be Cardano, it could be anywhere. And everyone will realize that actually, holy shit, this is a problem for every blockchain. It's not just unique to any individual one.
Biggie, I want to get you in here, but before I do that, folks, we are sitting here with Mark, who is a builder on the Bitcoin network and Stacks protocol as well. I believe. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. That terminology, at least. I do want to get to these lightning questions, Mark, and then I want to get Biggie back in here because if I don't do it now, it's just the comments. It's going to get too far back. So I'm going to run through these again. Leave them as quick as possible if you can. Prodigy's asking, where are you from? And you don't have to say where you're at now, but where are you from?
North Yorkshire in the UK.
Okay. Prodigy's also asking, what was the price of Bitcoin when you entered?
$300 ish, thereabouts, a little bit under that. In size, I had a few less than that, but I bought a decent amount, around like 280 ish, something along those lines.
Okay,
Nice.
I got a ton to get to. So if you guys see anything else, Carter's saying if it's on a second layer, not Bitcoin itself, doesn't that defeat the whole purpose? Kind of like saying your NFT assets are on Ethereum, but your ownership is on Polygon.
Yeah, the ownership and the NFT will always be on Bitcoin, assuming ordinals are the protocol we use going forward. When I was talking about L2s and things like stacks to control these, what that enables is a non-custodial way of moving these and asserting on the ownership of the Bitcoin chain. So that's why stacks is interesting, because it doesn't need an oracle or anything to read Bitcoin data state. It can read that and it can assert that a transaction's happened already. So it can trustlessly do that. So that's where I think things like marketplaces and distribution of the NFTs will happen. Like I'm minting 10,000 ordinals. There's terrible support for that on Bitcoin, but there's first class for that support for that on stacks, right? So that might be where the minting of them goes and they go to the Bitcoin wallets, but the ownership and the NFT would always exist on Bitcoin.
Biggie, jump in whenever. Here's another question from Mike Erlinson. Is there a simple way to buy and trade Bitcoin NFTs? I guess I can mold that question into like, if I'm just starting, right? If I'm just trying to get involved in the marketplaces or Ethereum or on Bitcoin, what am I doing? Where am I going? What wallets am I setting up? What marketplaces am I going to?
For ordinals, yeah. For ordinals, you need to go to like the ordinals Discord, and figure out like the OTC groups that are doing things there. However, like for stacks NFTs on Bitcoin, you just go to like gamma.io, set up a hero wallet, and I think what's going to happen, I'm speaking for people here,
Thank you. That was
But
my question.
but like I know for a fact that there are people within the Stacks ecosystem who are saying, how do we enable like trustless marketplaces for this stuff? It's gonna happen. So I would keep active in like the Ordinals Discord and like follow maybe Gamma on Twitter, because if someone does it first, it's probably gonna be those guys. And just keep an eye out. Someone will win that space, that race to that space, where it's like, oh hey, look, you can now trustlessly trade these. There's a few things that I'm looking for before I start aping in as like a creator, and one of them, I just want first class wallet support for like anyone, similar to like a MetaMask wallet that's easy to use, and somewhere trustlessness to point them, like a Gamma, right, when it's supported. I don't want to point people to OTC discords to trade these things because they're just going to get scammed, right? So right now, if you're willing to take the risk with your capital, it's all OTC for ordinals right now. Anyone that says it's not is lying. It's just all OTC. When you're trading with someone, make sure you're conducting like more due diligence than you would if someone sent you an NFT trader link on ETH, right? Because there's not even that. It's going to be a case of someone saying, hey, send me Bitcoin, I'll send you NFT. Or what you'll actually see is someone saying, we'll use a trusted middleman. Now, make sure that the trusted middleman is a trusted middleman.
A good time to say this is not financial advice at all. Don't ape into this shit.
Assume they're all going to go to zero, right? This is the riskiest of new shit that we've seen in a long time. If you ape into like ordinal NFTs, you need to be aping in and thinking this could go to zero tomorrow. There could be like a protocol level like exploit with all these things. Like don't ape in with capital you can't afford to lose in this instance.
This is not financial advice. And information Information was found publicly on the internet. Opinions shared on this episode are solely that of the Web3 team, and all information is public domain. Please, DYOR, do your own research.
Yeah, Mark, that brings that's music to my ears. What you just said. I've been going into Gallo Bob's open spaces, Twitter spaces. I don't know if you've been checking it out, but yesterday I believe the folks from Hero Wallet were in his spaces, literally talking about what you were saying, of finding out a way to offer support for these guys. So for ordinals. So I can totally see that going down the line. Having said that, like for our listeners out there, my suggestion, and again, it's a suggestion, it's not financial advice, but if you are looking or if you're keen to look into the space, you want to educate yourself on it, right? And again, I am completely biased because I am a holder. But I find that the Megapont Discord is a great place to have discussions with people that are deeply embedded in this space and understand it and see where this is going. And in general, the Stacks ecosystem is fantastic. I for one, Mark, like it's one of those things where it came out of nowhere, like you said, and I started seeing it. And again, I was just like, this is just people putting stickers on Bitcoin, but not really developing anything, whereas Stacks really has like communities and projects that have been building for quite some time, and with the clarity language, which from what I understand it helps a lot to deter a lot of these scams, especially the smart contract kind. So it's a great place to, like, I think, get your feet wet. There's great generative art pieces. There's really good artists and really cool projects to learn from. Again, not financial advice. I'm a holder, but it is a great place to do it. And I can't help but think that, and I'm very happy that Ordinals is having this moment in the sun, but I can't help but think that this is just going to be, bigger in general for the space, and an even greater boon for the Stacks ecosystem, which I think was the one that will be able to leverage that. And we shall see, right?
So okay, so I'm trying to understand all this, right? So Megapont is one of your projects, correct? Megapont Ape Club.
Yep.
So I'm over here looking at it, and this is built using Stacks, which is like I'm gonna. This might be wrong, so this is where you can correct me. But it's like I'm gonna liken it to something like a Polygon or some kind of L2 solution, scalable solution. Yeah, so it provides some of that additional utility that you don't get just with Bitcoin alone. So you created this project, deployed it on, let's say, the Polygon of Bitcoin. But basically, the thesis here is that by owning and participating in the Stacks projects and ecosystem, it's like we're not talking about investing, but like owning or participating in Bitcoin NFTs, right? So like
Mhm.
I can get into Megapont or some Stacks projects, even though I'm using the Polygon, the Stacks token, the Matic, a different token, an L2 token. I'm still on the Bitcoin network or attached to it.
Yeah. And, you know, people would say, why the hell would I be interested in stacks if I just want an ordinal? Stacks, the stacks community are people who bought like the OG of smart contracts on Bitcoin. They, for the most part, were, I don't want to say Bitcoin maxis, but almost everyone is hardcore Bitcoin in stacks communities, right? They all know how Bitcoin works. They were Bitcoin before Ethereum. And the Megapont community, Megapont as a project was a lot of people's first NFT because before that they just had Bitcoin. They bought stacks because they heard it was smart contracts on Bitcoin, but before that they were pure Bitcoin, right? So the community has a lot of crossover with Bitcoin natively. They know more about Bitcoin than Ethereum, and they know more about Bitcoin than NFTs for the most part. So the community is a great place to go in and learn about Bitcoin, and you could see that because when Ordinal started taking off, all of the DJs in the Stacks communities were the first
Yeah.
ones putting everything on this. All of like the creators and marketplaces were tweeting. They're all putting everything on Ordinals. They're all coming in saying like, "Hey, let's get digits. Let's put this on. Let's do this." So the reason that they were first there is because they're natively just more interested in what's going on top of Bitcoin. And forever, everything that's happened on Bitcoin has been boring, right? Like it's been so boring. The most exciting thing we've had is Lightning, for God's sake. And now we've got this like vibey community
Okay.
thing, and everyone loves it, right? It's a vibe. Obviously, when price is going up and interest is going up, it's a lot of fun. But it's like one of those things. This community has been around when price went down, and nothing exciting was happening. So now there's this whole like newfound interest in Bitcoin NFTs. You bet that it's probably going to be a vibe for the next however long the bubble lasts.
And you were mentioning earlier in the episode that people are having fun, and usually there's some money to be made around it. Well, not a lot of people are having fun in the Bitcoin Maxi community when it comes to them thinking that maybe this shouldn't be happening, whether it be for storage issues, right? Like fee issues. I know, like
Fees
that's
will go up. That's the thing.
and
People and I had this interesting conversation because there was a maxi. I had like a little argument. It was in a different Discord, and they said, "Oh well, let's see how many JPEGs are put on Bitcoin when like the fee's $60." And I was like, "My dude, like we were minting NFTs that went to zero and paying $2,000 gas. Like, don't for 1 minute, don't for 1 minute think that a $60
yeah.
fee is going to stop degens in the NFT space doing anything with this chain."
So,
That's facts.
kind of break down very quickly. Again, we only have you for a little bit longer, but break down that civil war basically that's happening. Right? There are a substantial amount in the Bitcoin community that don't want this NFT movement to be happening.
Yeah, they there's a few reasons. One of them just hate NFTs. I don't know why. Maybe it's the whole like Ponzi-esque nature that they see in the utility flywheel that we had for the most part of 21 and 22. But they just dislike NFTs, and you can see that most Bitcoin maxis, their PFPs will be some AI generated thing, or it's a photo of themselves with laser eyes. There's very little NFT adoption across most of them. So they just dislike NFTs for one, and I sympathize with them in one regard, and it's that Bitcoin still doesn't feel very suited for this in many ways. It is like the world's monetary layer, and it is just increasing fees everywhere right now. And Bitcoin, one of the big things about Bitcoin is that it's affordable to use it in developing nations for transactions, right? So that there's reasonable to expect that if ordinals take off, the fees are going to be so high that it just drives out a lot of the real world adoption of Bitcoin. And there's also that sentiment thing as well. It's Bitcoin is well regarded as a commodity across every regulator in the world and all politicians, right? It's like Bitcoin is a commodity. We 21 million supply. We don't have to worry about Bitcoin doing anything crazy. There's no smart contracts. It's not a security, etc. And now all of a sudden, if you start assigning fancy JPEGs, pornographic JPEGs, animal pictures everywhere to it, it changes the sentiment of what a Bitcoin is. It's like, oh look, there's that chain where you have when someone says Ethereum, a normal person in the world will think of a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT. That's what they will immediately go to in their mind when you talk to them about Ethereum and NFTs. It will be
I thought it
apes.
was Vitalik's dong that everybody was thinking about.
All that, right? All
Yeah.
Vitalik's dong. Bitcoin doesn't have a Vitalik as well, which is better for Bitcoin, right? There's no Vitalik going around with his dong out, pumping the price or pumping other shitcoins prices, right? There's no one doing that for Bitcoin.
Yeah, Nifty Q saw himself out after that bad joke.
He's tearing. I knew he would be just
He's
streaming.
like, you know what? He's like, I'm done. Flips the table. He's out. No, like, it's interesting you bring up the like. We do very much get stuck in our little bubbles of degeneracy a lot of the times and forget that like this is a global movement, global technology that can solve real world problems, not just how do you flip some fucking ridiculous JPEGs around and try and make profit. It's like this can solve the bankless situation. This can solve scalable medical records and different government. So we're talking about a lot of this on Tezos today, and we actually one of the most you never know what kind of magic shit is going to happen when you just go live on Twitter and people start hopping up on stage. But we had people from Peru, we've got people from India, like NFT Cutie, that join us. But we had somebody else from, I think, Mexico. Like we had people just hopping in South America and basically sharing like why Tezos matters so much to them as artists, trying to, find their path, find a voice, manufacture their own version of generational wealth, or even just buying food for the week, and having the accessibility, the low gas prices, these things really do matter, so what, whereas, some fucking crypto chat out there might not blink at, spending $60 or $2,000 to mint a rare, Pepe, most people in the world ain't going to do that. And so when you're trying to scale Bitcoin, to your point, it's like it kind of almost, I can see how it might feel like a step back almost to all the work that people have been doing in the Bitcoin community to kind of add legitimacy to it. Now you're bringing in the fucking degens again, and like kind of through the back door, the degens are fucking coming in. I could see why some people are concerned.
But Bitcoin block space wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't valuable, but I was actually listening to a Bankless episode a few weeks ago where they were comparing fees paid to networks. And I think Bitcoin, the fees paid, I don't know on the time frame, but for whatever time frame they were looking at, Bitcoin was like $300,000 paid to miners in fees. And like Ethereum was like $5 million, right? So like Ethereum block space has like a 15x demand from Bitcoin, right? Like people want to pay because guess what blockchains do, right? They sell block space. That's what they do. And people wanted to pay for Ethereum's block space more than Bitcoin's. And now it's like, in one spec, Maxi's like, hey, you can't do this for NFTs. And degens are like, I thought you wanted to sell us block space, right? And there's that whole argument and that meme circle now, whereas if someone's paying the fee and the miners want to take the fee, then it's a valid transaction, right? Like, if the market says that this JPEG is more valuable than a financial transaction, then we've got a free market, good or bad.
Mark,
and think about all that dormant like value in that chain that's pretty much just a store of value. People just hold it and that's all they do with it. You're jump-starting this activity and this change to so many people that all they've done for like the past 10 years is like hodl. Now you're adding all this functionality to it. So of course you're going to see transaction, volume rise, but the value that comes along with it is the stuff that I don't understand why the maxis do not understand, that it's value accrual to the chain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't focus on the bloat,
Well, there were even talks about censorship, right? They would like somehow censoring the things that were happening with ordinals, or I don't know exactly like the process that would have to go, but just the philosophical approach that you can at one end talk about self-sovereign money and being able to, have a free market, and then also try to ban the thing that you don't want to see on chain. It's
like that meme
wild
card, that fake meme card on Ethereum, which is Vitalik, like freedom to transact, and then underneath it says within the OFAC compliant blocks, right? And it's like all Bitcoin maxis love that, right? They put it everywhere. It's like, oh, look at your shit chain over here where like OFAC compliant blockchain. And now they're like, hey, can we censor these JPEGs that we don't like?
It's almost like maximalists don't appreciate irony. But hey, you know what's interesting though about what Biggie's bringing into this is, you know, I think I was seeing recently, again, somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but somebody was reporting that I think it's around like 50% of Bitcoin or something has not moved in 2 years. Some crazy metric about the hodling and like how most people are just holding it. And, you know, my, you know, layman's understanding of economics and, you know, what makes a market viable or valuable, a lot of it has to do with the velocity of money. It is the transaction volume that actually like gives it a lot of the value and might unlock a lot of that value that Biggie's talking about.
Yeah, look, I don't know if that Bitcoin is going to move because I think it's quite happy just parked. And this, like when you hear unlocking Bitcoin liquidity, you hear this in Stacks as well. I disagree a lot with like the Stacks community on this, where they think one day dormant Bitcoin's going to wake up and be like, hey, I'm going to spend this on DeFi and a whole bunch of other random stuff. I don't think that's going to happen. I think a lot of holders of Bitcoin, and I can't speak for them all, are just happy to hold their Bitcoin, right? Interestingly, I stole this, but someone said to me, Bitcoin is basically like the Dow and Ethereum is like the NASDAQ. And you park like your pension fund in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? Dow 30, park it there forever. I know I'm going to get like 1% appreciation a year. I don't care. But when you're spicy and you're in your 30s and your early 40s, depending on your risk, you're like, hey, I just want like to track the NASDAQ, right? I want those spicy returns from like the Facebooks and the Apples and so on. So that's one way to think about it. And I just don't think Bitcoin liquidity is going to move en masse, not for NFTs anyway, because I think it already would have. Like, if someone that was so interested in NFTs, they already would have just moved from Bitcoin to Ethereum, unless you're like the maxi of all maxis.
And so that makes the argument for stacks versus ordinals a lot stronger, right? Where you do need that L1.5, as you mentioned.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be stacks versus ordinals as well. Like I've seen a lot of people in stacks
that too,
and other Bitcoin like L2s, L15s worry about ordinals. Like, hey, are we not needed now? And it's like, well, no. What someone's figured out is a nice way to put an NFT or a data object on Bitcoin, but Bitcoin still has none of the scripting language. It still can't do anything that you would see in a typical NFT mint, right? Try and mint 10,000 ordinals. The way that would work, you'd probably just take payment and then promise to mint. Like it's completely centralized and there's no trustlessness around it. So smart contracts on Bitcoin need to exist. And we've seen this pushback from maxis about just minting JPEGs on Bitcoin. There's no way. And this is why Ethereum exists, right? This is literally why Ethereum exists, because Vitalik kind of wanted this to exist and he knew it wouldn't happen on Bitcoin. So he was like, hey, this would be really cool to set up and do somewhere else, right? Like, it's a big part of why Ethereum exists today is because Bitcoin could not become this smart contract layer on top of this immutable commodity. So I think stacks will be fine there.
Can we pull up the chart real quick? Just look at stacks because this is new. Like I didn't know much about stacks. So look, this is the last month. It's up almost 50% just in the last month. Yeah, it looks like people are starting to figure this out a little bit. But kind of similar to Polygon or Flow, maybe not Flow, but Tez, which have had incredible runs over the last 30 days. But this is by percentage even larger, like about 50%.
You should definitely follow Munib. So Munib is one of the founders of Stacks, and he's one of the easiest people to listen to talk about Stacks and blockchain and Bitcoin. Very articulate.
I also just looked at you can buy it on Coinbase. So apparently I just went to my Coinbase app and you can buy and trade stacks on Coinbase. So for simpletons like myself who do their trading there.
Yeah, follow Munib, listen to some of his podcasts that he's appeared on. He's appeared on all like the bigger sort of Bitcoin-y related podcasts. He's a great speaker. He articulates the vision of stacks and what it's going to become and the vision for the future of Bitcoin in a way that very few other individuals can do. I always say he's like a far more charismatic version of Vitalik in many ways. It's quite funny. I used to when I put my son to bed, which is why I'm leaving soon. I wish I could say I've got something crazy I'm doing in my life, but I'm just putting kids to bed. I used to listen to like podcasts, and there was one where Monib was on, and my partner came in. She was like, "Hey, you should just let Ivor listen to that. Who's that speaker? He's got such a nice voice. It's calming." So it's nice to be involved in a community where the founder isn't a polarizing figure of an individual that a whole bunch of people hate. Like, there's so many blockchains that have this figure who's very polarizing. Part of the community just worship them as an individual and everything they stand for, and a whole bunch of other people will assassinate the character of that individual. There might be people who dislike what Monib says from a technical or an idealistic perspective, but I've very rarely ever seen anyone attack his character, which just makes it a nicer place to be building for the most part.
Yeah, and to add into this, just so you know, Stacks was the raise for Stacks was regulation A. So you do not. It was all done by the book. Like you're not going to have issues there with regulation. It took a very long time, right, Mark? I think like from when it was announced to when it raised, it was like almost 3 years. But I think
it's still the only like regulated ICO, right? In the US, because they were a US company. I'm pretty sure it's the only US regulated ICO where they went through the whole SEC process and something. It's still to this day the only one. Yeah.
You could just do a unregulated raise and then pay the fine like EOS.
You should have just done that. The amount of times I've said that, you should have just done this unregulated. It would have been so much easier. Like, what are you doing?
I can't believe I just said that live on air. But yeah, definitely do that, guys, for sure. All right, last questions from Big Ear or GIF. I guess, Mark, my last question is not Bitcoin related, although you kind of dropped all the knowledge, and I'd love for you to talk about Apollo before you head out. You said you're an ape holder. I want to get your take here before you head out on the kind of like roadmap that we've seen unveiled with Dookey Dash and with the mech releases and all these things.
I think it's amazing. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think like Yuga is the utility play in the space, right? If you're bullish on NFTs, I don't see how you can be bearish on Yuga Labs as an entity. I don't know. Maybe you just disliking the art is one thing, but like being bearish on a company who's driving the space forward. And a nice way to think about it, it's quite funny, is everyone else is playing catch up. Like nobody else is remotely in the same league as these guys. Look at the sewer passes and what's going on with Dookey Dash. You have another great project in like D-Gods and Frank, who plays that attention game like no one else in the space, right? He has a massive community just in the palm of his hands all the time. And he's great at getting the attention of everyone on Twitter. And Yuga Labs kind of just ignore that, and they just drop like a AAA, really polished experience, don't really care about the macro of what's going on. And they're just like, hey, we're doing our own thing. And there's no one else really in the space. Doodles are a bit like this. Whether or not they're making the right decisions is a different question entirely. But they also don't give a shit about anything else going on, right? There's only two projects, I think, that just don't give a shit. Doodles and Yuga Labs. I actually said this as well. I was like, I really regret never buying a Doodle because I love the art as well. And I'm like, they're very Web3 native. But
get in, bro. I just got in literally the other day. Somebody, I don't know if I don't think you could call it a paper hand, but I put in a WETH offer when everything was dipping around. So about 5.5 ETH I got in at that point. So I
look at those two. Like they've got Pharrell like making music videos. Some that's like come on. Like if any brand is going to push over into Web2 and make it big, it's probably going to be Doodles. Whether or not that's good for bag holders is a different thing entirely, right? Let's just paraphrase with this. Like, I don't know if, hey, you buy a Doodle at 5 ETH and it goes up. Like, I don't know if what their vision is going to do that. But if you're going to see any NFT project on a TV screen or in, like, appealing to the masses, it's going to be Doodles. It just is. It's just, there's no one else better positioned. However, like, Yuga right now are turning into, okay, we're going to make really fucking awesome, sorry for the swearing, we're going to make really awesome experiences for people who want to be in Web3. And I don't know how you can be bearish on that. It's just something, it's just exciting. When I first opened up Dookey Dash, I was just like, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool. Like, ignore price for a minute. I was just like, I feel like a kid again. And I played it with my children. They want to play it. My partner hears the music. She comes in. She wants to go. It's just fun. Like I said at the beginning, right? There's a lot of money to be made in fun. And they're bringing a lot of fun back. And you can't say that for many projects.
Yeah. And for anybody who comes on the show as a guest, do not fucking cuss, okay? Seriously.
I
don't
never
really-
know. I swear all the time, and that's the problem. I'll probably get a slap when I go out for partnership. Like, I heard you swearing. And the kids heard
Just so you know, Mark, our new studio podcast, which I really hope, having met you, I think you're wonderful, and I loved your takes right there on everything you said, because we actually have a saying that Q was dropping in the chat. Never fade Yuga is our new mantra here for the Yuga show.
Marty's
But
rolling over.
our new studio podcast that we just launched the pilot for is called Fuck You Money. That's actually the name of the podcast, or Fuss Pod for short. So I hope you'll check it out, Mark, if you get a chance, and let us know what you think of the new format. And maybe if you're ever in LA, you can come on and be a guest.
I want to answer this because someone said, "What about moonbirds?"
Oh no.
They
Do
are
tell.
an interesting one, right? Because I think I have the highest moonbird sale. That wasn't like a one of one or a rare. So I sold one of the Gremplin moonbirds at like 45 ETH to Eric, the well-known ape trader. So yeah, 45 ETH or something along those lines. When ETH was like $3,500. So I sold it and I went and bought a Porsche GT3. I was like, this moonbird's amazing, but I want a car. Like, give me a car.
I thought you were gonna say a Porsche NFT. I was about to freak out.
No,
I was like,
wish
no!
I could buy those as
That's what I
well.
thought he
Like,
meant at first.
I'm a massive Porsche Maxi, and I didn't buy the NFT because I was just like, this price is ridiculous. And then I thought about it for a moment. I was like, it actually isn't that bad. Like, what an idiot for not buying these things. Like, it's a luxury brand.
I'm glad.
Here's
talking
Mark's
to you at the end of
alpha.
this.
Here's Mark's alpha. Sell all your moonbirds for Porsche NFTs.
Oh,
no.
Out of moonbirds, get into the Porsche
Dude,
NFTs,
give-
y'all. That's alpha.
Well, so moonbirds, to go on that, whenever I don't know if you guys are the same, but whenever I see like a well-reasoned take on moonbirds, especially in the art space, a well-reasoned take on art in the NFT space, sorry, it's from someone rocking a moonbird. Like, all of the talking heads talking sense about open editions, about the art moving forward, about art blocks, about gen art, they're all moonbird holders. So I'm looking at like the community and thinking, like, they know art, but I don't think they know anything else. I don't think they do the utility thing very good. And I think they should just focus on being like an art community. And I think Proof is testament to that, right? Like, the Grails drops have been massively successful no matter what anyone says. And Proof Pass was 1 ETH like 14 months ago. They've been repaid just as much as Yuga Labs holder, as in many ways, right? If you got a Proof Pass on Mint, you are saying don't fade Proof as much as the Yuga people like us are saying don't fade Yuga, because they've made you massive amounts of capital. I just don't think moonbirds do utility well. So I hope they focus more on art. That's all I'm saying.
We're trying.
You know,
Trying.
Mark is a true degen because he's like 20 minutes over. His wife's pissed that he's staying on here.
Well, she hasn't knocked yet, so I know she's not mad.
Nice. Keep it going, dude.
She hasn't knocked yet. So yeah, that's my thoughts on moonbirds. I like the community more than the utility vision is the best way to articulate it.
Drop your Apollo Alpha here, Alfalfa as we like to call it. What are you building with Apollo here before you get up out of here?
Yeah, so we are building a whole bunch of things. And what I mean by that is if you have a project and you're struggling with anything, we're doing that like typical startup flywheel thing of like figure out problems where we can solve them for individual creators and like build software that fixes those. So we're doing a lot of stuff that doesn't scale at the moment, and we're slowly rolling out other projects that make it easier to manage your NFT project, right? So that can be things like raffles, snapshotting. We have some exciting stuff coming up with like Twitter and sales bots and capturing information from tweets and custom marketplaces and so on and so forth. So we're really just speaking to creators in the ground, getting our hands dirty and saying, like, where are you struggling? And we have some great, really big, really popular creators on there. And just saying like, hey, like, how can we save you time? Because a lot of individual artists, like even the popular open editions folks in this space, it's just one individual. And they figure out everything else they need to do in the space, and they're just overwhelmed. So we're like, hey, Manifold has cracked smart contracts. They're rocking it. But what happens after you've minted on Manifold? Like, now you've got to start doing a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, how can we help you there? So
That's
if you're
really
a creator,
smart.
if
That's
you need
really
anything
smart.
solving, give us a shout out, and we'll see if we can help you out.
Munib
So
with
are
the
you-
tweet. Go ahead.
Yeah, JPEGs are showing
See,
why
he
we
can be
need
spicy.
Bitcoin.
He can be spicy when he needs to be.
Yo, well said, Munib. And dude, again, welcome to the Yuga Show. That's what we're doing today. Anyway, So I'm curious, do you see this Apollo play as something that you would eventually see getting bought by a Manifold or something like that and integrated? Like we see OpenSea right now buying a lot of analytics, merging. Like I think it was Gem was one of the recent ones and things like that. Do you think Apollo will obviously be its own third party, but eventually you think it'll be integrated with like one of these other sort of smart contract solutions for artists?
Yeah. Like realistically, probably. We have a great team at the moment, and we're growing. So we're about to bring on 2 new people as well. It probably becomes a startup that just ends up being acquired somewhere when it makes sense for the community that we build for and the team that works there. AKA, like Apollo is becoming a business, like a for-profit company. And in order for like an acquisition to make sense, hey, I want to get a bit of a bag. The employees want to. The community should. Like it needs to happen in the right way. And we still haven't seen great acquisitions in Web3. I don't think. You can point to maybe a few. Gem's probably a good one actually. That's the only one that worked out, I think, well. So for those who don't know, Gem's actually owned by OpenSea. So OpenSea acquired Gem in a nice way, didn't shut it down and roll it up, which they could have done. So we'd probably want something similar as well.
Do you do gamified POAPs or things like that?
No, like I don't because I don't own POAPs, right? The only POAP I own is for playing that monkey game, the sewer game ages ago with Yuga. You got a POAP, didn't you, for playing it? The jumper. It was like the first game they released.
Play that one.
Yeah. With the
I got a
you
POAP.
can, like throw bananas.
Yeah, it's probably it was not the Pixel one on your phone. It was the one before that in the web browser. Can you remember that?
I remember when it was a thing, but I just didn't play it. It was one of those
So I
things.
got a POAP from that anyway. It's probably
whatever.
worth more than like most of the NFTs that I own now because it's Yuga, right? So like Never Fade Yuga, it's probably worth about 5 ETH. Who
Can
knows?
you
I need to
trade
check.
POAPs?
That's why we haven't built
That's a
them
good
because no one
POAP
knows if you can even trade the
marketplace.
bloody thing. So it's like they're a nightmare at the moment to work with. I think are they still manually verified? I'm not sure if they fixed that.
Mark Squashman's got the real alfalfa here. He's saying, Mark, she's not gonna knock. Don't let these guys get you in trouble off chain.
Yeah. So no, so here's what I'm interested in. I think to your point, POAP has a lot of issues and doesn't scale well and whatever. but there's other companies that are creating POAP solutions that do a lot of things better. Like there's a company that we're talking to start to do our own POAP, live minting things and gamifying and making, rewarding audiences that show up and engage called rev.gg. And so like, and that's a very small startup team. Like maybe they're the type of people that y'all could pick up and then integrate what they're doing if you're creating this toolkit. So I don't know. I think that POAPs do have a utility and a purpose, and people like you can look at what we've obviously been talking about what's been going on with Ryan Carson.
Yeah,
obviously in the news for not
hunted, right?
For
everyone wanted them.
Yeah, well, so he's in the news for not good reasons. That's a whole other thing. Watch our show yesterday if you want to catch up on that. But he's been using POAPs to great effect, right? They have utility, and people really fucking like them. Like, people love fucking POAPs.
Yeah, there's people love POAPs, people love NFTs. You've got to figure out the distribution mechanism for them to make sense, right? Like people love collecting. That's really what's going on here. I'm a massive collector of all sorts of garbage that I have no reason to collect. But I'm just like, I just like collecting things, right? Maybe I've got that kind of collective personality. And NFT collectors are degens are the same. I call them collectors there. I'm calling them degens instead. It's a better phrase. But they like to collect things, right? Multiples. I don't think everyone's in the space to make money. The interesting thing is, as a founder, I've spoken, and maybe you guys are the same. I've spoke to a lot of individuals in the community who aren't in that vocal minority. They're not on Twitter every day. They're not in Discord speaking all the time. And they're not interested in trading. They just want to buy and hold and have a good time. But you never hear from them. They're not making noise. They're not docs. They're not undocs. They just don't exist in Web3 beyond owning the assets, and they don't want to be known in Web3. So there's a whole bunch of people like that, maybe in Ryan Carson's community, maybe in Moonbirds and even in Yuga Labs, who they just enjoy the vibe. They don't want to be the thread guys on Twitter or the reply guys or anything like that. They just enjoy the space.
100%.
So we've seen the wallets dip down to only about 10,000 active wallets during this winter. And, people have multiple wallets. So it's probably like there's maybe 5,000 people in the space that are not here just to make money, that are still here.
That sounds like FUD. That sounds like FUD on a Tuesday.
Everybody else left because they were here for the money. And when the volume dried up, they're all fucking gone. But we're still here collecting. I mean DJing.
Yes.
I mean gambling. I mean what
Collected.
what are we doing?
It's
Look,
funny. Someone pitched me last night. Someone pitched me late last night. I'll leave this as my closing thought before she will kill me. Someone pitched me last night. She actually just sent me a message saying, "Sure, you're nearly done." Someone pitched me last night a startup. They were like, "Hey, can we have a call?" I had a call, and they're creating like a gambling startup. And interestingly, one of the decks in their slide was just like, "Hey, everyone in this space is a gambler." Right? Like, why are we going to succeed? Because everyone is a gambler. And I paused and I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is going to bang because everyone actually is a gambler. Like, this is going to do really well. But I do think there's a lot of gambling in this space.
It's the same thing why we're bullish on gaming, right? A lot of people that you talk to in this space are like, I played RuneScape when I was 12. Like, well, yep, that's why gaming is going to be awesome because we're all also gamers. But
also fantasy sports. Sports is going to be so massive, dude.
All right.
And that's all like. You know, all right.
Mark,
you gotta go.
Mark, we gotta have you back on. Hopefully, your wife.
I would love to. I would love to be back. I would love to be back. Yeah, she's not knocking. She'll knock on my head when I finish. That's what'll happen instead. But it was an absolute pleasure, and I would love to be back at some point in the future, guys.
Please do, Mark. Thank you for your time. I'll see you in the Discords, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the show, folks.
Take it easy.
Bye, man. All right, are we ready for quick news?
That's a great guess. That's a great guess, Biggie. Yeah, we like him. He fits in well.
I love it, dude. Honestly, he's such a brain, dude. Like, he is just as well versed on Ethereum as Bitcoin. It's rare to find people like that and that are able to like as they say, entertain opposing thoughts without fucking becoming a crazy fucking lunatic. I really do encourage people to follow him, of course. And yeah, if you want to learn into NFTs, his community, Megapon Apes, I've been there since day one, and man, the amount of knowledge in that Discord by him is very generous with his knowledge. What a guy, man! Thank you, Mark, for coming. Like that, we'll have him back for sure.
Mark, if your wife allows you, like, come back as soon as possible. Honestly, like, don't make this like a quarterly thing. You can come back whenever you want. A lot of comments coming through in chat. Quantum Berry saying, "Gift FUD." Mark, Prodigy saying Mark is alpha as fuck. He said we on the show talking BTC. Prodigy, what's going on, man? Are you drunk? Just in case saying thanks, Mark. Squashman saying thanks, Mark. Hashran saying great discussion. Prodigy saying thanks, Mark. So a lot of great comments coming through. And Quantum Berry saying Biggie bringing all the alfalfa guests, man. Appreciate it.
For real, yo. And if y'all aren't following Mark, follow him. But also, if you're not following this guy right here, Biggie Poppins, he you know what? He's in the Proof Collective, so you know that he knows a lot about art. He might not know shit about anything else. But he knows a lot about art.
I know find out when I see it, man. Dude, I love this snake. Like, didn't pull any punches, and I think it's a fair criticism. I obviously am a day one minter there, and I know we're going through some rough patches like so many other projects do. I definitely am bullish that we will turn that corner at some point. But yeah, a lot to think about, man. My brain is overheating.
Yeah, if you liked that interview there or that discussion we had with Mark, please leave a like on today's episode. We're trying to bring you the best, the freshest, the best alfalfa in the space. So we appreciate you guys getting after it with us and commenting along.
Fresh alfalfa.
All right. We're gonna speed through quick news. We're at an hour and 20 minutes, so we're gonna speed through this, Jacob. We got a Yuga Lab show to get to here as well. Starting with some FUD, some Q FUD. Crypto commercials banned from SuperBowl ads following the FTX collapse. I don't really care about this. I just thought it was a funny headline. But
does this mean there's no wait? But what's gonna happen to the Digidaigakus now? Like,
okay,
where's they gonna
maybe NFTs are different.
No, they're not. Not to these fucking dinosaurs.
Yeah,
it's all crypto, dude. Fuck.
Yeah.
What do you? I don't know.
Yeah, they're not differentiating between NFTs and crypto.
I'm annoyed.
No, I mean, look, so much for an open market, right?
I mean, it's never been an open market for them. That's why we left.
Yeah, that's true.
But speaking of, and I have no idea how this is going to work. Well, I guess it's not a Super Bowl commercial. But speaking of the Super Bowl, Reddit coming through. Reddit ready to score. We're teaming up with the NFL to bring you Super Bowl collectible avatars and their free. Get yours today. Look at Reddit coming through, baby.
That
looks like an NFT.
Call it a digital collectible.
Let's
that looks like an NFT.
Fucking go, Reddit. Look at that.
Yo, Reddit is fucking 200 IQ, bro.
Let's see. Let's jump into this. I haven't seen this yet, folks. This actually went live. I believe the tweet went live this window. Okay, so we got. All right, what's happening? Cute. Okay, this is taking me deep. So you can actually just claim from here, huh?
You've never done. You haven't seen how integrated the digital collectible experience is on the Reddit interface.
All right, I'm actually a Cowboy fan, so I can't, in my right mind, choose the Eagles. There's some music that you guys aren't hearing on here as well, so there's a little bit of that. Your avatar needs a okay. I'm not doing this. Okay, I'm already done. I'm off-boarded. Actually, it looks really dope. I'm not gonna lie. Like that looks like an easy claim function if you have a vault set up. So go and check it out. I will drop the link in chat.
Yo, that mullet's looking good today, bro. See it from the side.
Thank you.
Oh, bro.
Another piece of quick news. Again, guys, we had like an hour 30. That was going to be the episode. So we're just kind of just working through stuff. We do have some Yuga stuff to get to. If you had 857 ETH to spend yesterday, what are you buying? Kevin Rose's Zombie Smile Punk or Jimmy's ETH Rainbow Grill Ape? If you don't know the backstory here, and I know about Jimmy's ape. I don't know if Kevin Rose actually did he sell that Zombie Smile Punk yesterday, because Jimmy was able to sell.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, he did. Okay, so these sales
sold
back to back.
Some mil. Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy just this morning, I believe, or yesterday, sold this ape for 800 ETH. So congrats.
I mean,
how my man, he needed more.
Nuts, I mean, what does that say? I think this says more about the apes than it does about the punks, right? When an ape is selling practically the same for the same price as the zombie punk. Wow, like it's just impressive, right? Now I don't know what Jimmy's plans are for that ETH, but I definitely know what Cairo's doing.
Can we also just take a moment as we're looking at this? As we're looking at this screen. As we're looking at this screen, and we're constantly looking at the analytics reports of like what have been the top collections on NFT Go over the last day, 24 hours, 7 days, over the last month. Yuga's collections are usually like 5 out of 10 of them. These two right here, the two biggest sales, these two projects, these are both Yuga projects. And you know what? I'm going to say something that some people don't appreciate, especially if you're a crypto punk. I know that a lot of people don't want to understand how ironic it is that Bored Apes, that they bought the CryptoPunks, but understand, like, it wasn't CryptoPunks buying the apes. It was the other way around. And what does that mean? It means that, yes, CryptoPunks are always going to be valuable because of their provenance, because of what they did, because of what what Larva Labs did with an early experiment, innovating and pioneering in the space. CryptoPunks will be worth a lot, no matter what, because of that. However, what they don't want to admit is that any future utility and wherever the CryptoPunks build, or anything that they do in the future, besides just being a piece of OG digital art, all of that depends on the success of Yuga and what they're going to do and their team. And to me, there's some irony there that I don't think a lot of people want to hear.
I'm scared about the comments that we're about to receive.
Yeah,
we are
sure. I love CryptoPunks. I want to have a CryptoPunk, and to answer that question, I would probably take the punk just because I have an ape and I don't have a punk. But actually, if I was choosing one or two as like a newbie who just happened to get a lot of money and like was trying to decide where to go, I would go with the ape first, because I think that that's going to actually build more wealth and utility for me in the short term, and maybe help me get to a punk. Like, I actually think that the ape is more interesting, even though the punk, to me, I would want.
I did have this kind of up for y'all, so I might ask this poll in chat here in just a second, but you can see them both there. So I don't know which one I'm buying here. I mean, I think it has to be the punk.
I would too, and I'll tell you why. And it's got like I think Gift's point is well taken. You know, if you know there's a lot of ifs, however, with the ape that up to this point have completely come true, and hence the phrase, right? Never fade Yuga. But if anything were to go ever awry, punks don't need to do shit. Punks are just like squiggles. Like they were never founded on utility. They were never founded on a roadmap or anything else. Just by their provenance and first mover advantage alone, they hold value and they will accrue it as this space keeps growing. I definitely think they're a little more underground and less recognizable, though, for sure. Like if you go around and ask people, like, "Yo, I got a pump," they're gonna be, "What? You got a what?" But if you tell them, "I got an ape," they know exactly what the fuck you're talking about.
Well, and to your point, Biggie, right now, because of the provenance and et cetera, all the reasons we don't have to list them, punks will hold a certain level of value, probably no matter what. Apes, you're like, they still depend very heavily on the utility roadmap, et cetera, to maintain a certain floor.
Which has performed flawlessly.
Which has, their execution is next level, never fade Yuga. But like, don't you think?
I can hear, I can see the vein on Marty's head.
Literally, I'm trying to show Marty right now. But okay, but Biggie, don't you think that, to your point about the recognizability, the branding, like what's actually being created with Bored Apes, that there's a chance that at some point just the ape itself also holds that high level of value, regardless of additional bells and whistles,
or even more. You know, like I think there is something to be said about like both swivels and punks. Like I don't know what the ceiling is, and I don't know how long you have to wait for them to be worth what a Picasso or a Rembrandt, you know, to reach those prices, right? And there's the reverie levels and what people like the hoodies, which are not as rare but have commanded a premium. I don't know how long that roadmap is, how long it takes. Whereas I think, you know, with apes right now, obviously the play is their metaverse, right? Like that is the roadmap. But let's say a couple of years down the line, the you know, the metaverse play has already played out. Like it is one of the premier metaverse locations that people like to jump into, work in, and use. Well, I can't help but see a lot more value accrued to the apes there, right? And I don't know what that looks like, whether it's access, you know, understandably so, or other things. But yeah, I think it just depends on what functionality they decide to add on top of what they're doing so far.
Can I comment real quickly on Marty's comment? He says, "Listen, Gordon and Garga like punks more than apes. Think about that." Okay, I will think about that for a second, Marty. Let's say that I started a project that literally was built on the shoulders of other people's projects, and I wanted to court those people to come in and like show them how much respect I had for them. Do you think that I'm gonna sit there and tell people that my project's better than the fucking like OG top dog first to do it? What do you think they're gonna say? You think they're gonna say, yeah, Bored Apes are better than punks? Clearly. Like, no, their literal lives have been made because of the apes. So yeah, of course they love punks because it inspired them. But like, they're not going to go out there saying that Bored Apes are better than fucking CryptoPunks because they're smart. They're smart, Marty. They're smart guys.
The respect feature was definitely there. Like they basically
they got respect.
They basically. The interview was great. Again, it had a lot to do with what the inspiration was for the punk or for the apes, which were the punks, right? A lot of the things that are.
Yeah, you were going to say. Sorry.
No, I mean a lot of the things that what Yuga has done was inspired by punks, but and I'm interested in the second part of that question, which is what Yuga actually bought, because I listened to the whole interview. I've listened to pretty much every single one of their episodes. What physically did they buy? If you want to drop,
I actually don't know. So yeah, drop it. But like, I assume that they bought the project, the contract, bought it out, and that they are now, the custodians, the
I think it's like
Sherpas of
future. It's like future. Man, I would have to go back
future
to the
revenue.
episode.
If it's just a rev share, then that's interesting too. But either way, they bought
And
that
direction.
I was
right.
under the impression that they did buy the IP, which they gave the right,
That's what I
which
thought.
in turn they returned it to the holders, which
Yeah.
which I think Larva Labs was not doing. Having said that, I think like what's important here though to highlight, I think, is that like us as crypto natives, like of course, like punks, squiggles, like autoglyphs, like they mean a lot more to people that are just coming into the space. And like Mark mentioned there, like I think this next level or this next step that like some of these NFTs need to take is very much what he was talking about, like with doodles, with hopefully moonbirds at some point, with apes, which is where they transcend the borders of the crypto natives, and you start seeing them on televisions, or you start seeing them on billboards and posters, which I think like you do see with apes, right? Like people know what a Bored Ape is an NFT, and you're part of some community of a bunch of rich crypto people, right? But like it's already transcending just the crypto native landscape, and I think punks and squiggles are very much like for people in the know. They're very niche and they're very treasured, and they don't move a lot. Like I don't think you don't see that volume either, right? Like trade volume, because people are holding them for posterity, rightfully so. And I think they will have this moment in the sun and recognition, but I can't help but think that it's going to be, again, in a gallery, in a museum, by art curators. Like they're going to hold that grail status, which is, I think it's valuable in and of itself, but it's a different approach to what moonbirds or apes or doodles are trying to do, which is break out of them chains and reach the IRL normies.
Prodigy is saying, I mean, to be honest, apes have to be better because the utility behind them in mutants and dogs and passes and Dookey Dash. I think that's why you see the floor price of apes be higher and will probably consistently be higher than what you would see in CryptoPunks. I think the high end purchases, like the one we just saw where it's 800 ETH or whatever you had for that zombie punk, I think will continue to be pretty equal. The high end purchases I think will continue to be equal. I don't think it's fair to say that the Yuga guys like Gordon and Garga like punks more. Like you'd be hard pressed to convince me that they like punks more than their own project. That's like saying like I really like someone else's baby over my baby. Even though like I have all these reasons to really like that baby, nothing could be better than the thing that you created. So I think it's a bit of a stretch, even though they bought, like you're saying, the punks. I was listening to that interview. It was paying homage to the Larva Labs team. I think they do like their apes better than the punks.
But they wouldn't go out saying that. They would never go out saying that apes are better than punks in any way because they're smart. So anyway, Q, I agree with you. I think you said it well. And you know what, Marty?
So
I appreciate you so much, dude, because I love your passion. And you know what? If I triggered you a little bit and got you engaged, I'm okay with that. This combo is killing it. This chat, this topic's really controversial though, and I love that this is going to be a conversation I think for a long time about punks versus apes. It's a fun combo. Honestly.
It's a combo that can never be answered either, really, because they're at the pantheon where people have both really good arguments for both.
Quantum Barry just called them ugly pixel babies, though.
Larva Labs is to Gordon Gargo what BAYC is to you. Okay. So last thing I'll say, like if we're using analogies here, like it would almost be like saying like I'm sure that Vitalik has some sort of thought about Bitcoin, like starting it all, right? Because the CryptoPunk BTC to the Bored Ape ETH analogy is there. It's a great analogy in my opinion. I mean, I don't think Vitalik would come out and say he loves Bitcoin more than Ethereum. So I don't know. It's just tough for me to kind of rationalize that, even though Vitalik probably loves Bitcoin and loves the vision that Satoshi set out and all these things about why Ethereum is even here today. So Biggie, give me a
And
little bit of take on this.
actually, wait, on that point, real quick, Q, you make a good point about like smart people understanding that for them to keep doing really well, they also need to invest in the success of the space at large, which is why, dude, Vitalik understands that like Solana thriving is good for the space. That's why he goes out and he says good things about Solana. He understands that having multiple chains that are doing well and building utility into people's lives and showing use cases for the blockchain is good for everybody in the space. That's, I think, the exact same thing that they're doing. They understand that like for Bored Apes and Yuga Labs to continue to transcend and skyrocket and become this major gaming studio or whatever the heck they're becoming, they actually need CryptoPunks to stay valuable and relevant and interesting. Mm-hmm. They need CryptoPunks to be like the Picasso or like the famous piece of digital art. Like they understand all of that it's not just about them. There's a space outside of them that they are part of. And I think that's what it is.
I like Squashman's take on this.
I do too.
It will make sense. To me, it comes down to just splitting hairs. You know, it's a matter of taste and what you're looking to get out of this space. You know, but I'm a fan of both. I will say, a lot more partial to the punks. But you know, that's just a matter of taste. That's all it is, Marty. Don't take it personally. We love you.
What is happening with the NFT scam story here? And then we'll get on to speaking about Yuga, because we got, I would say 10 minutes, guys, so we can hop out.
So this one was a quick one about an IRL scam. This person in particular, I guess, was reached out by these, like, I guess, masterful scam artists, you know, claiming that they wanted to buy his JPEGs. He met with them. I believe it was in Barcelona. Like, people actually showed up, met face to face, suited up, you know, looking like legit people. And he says that at some point he like went to the bathroom, he took his computer, and anyways, during that face to face meeting, that IRL meeting, his wallet was drained. And to me, like, this was just, again, one of those moments where chills go down your spine. And I think people need to be cognizant of, because I know we all here, I like wearing my Moonbird hat to places. I carry my phone and sometimes my computer with me, and you need to be very careful about not putting a target on your back, because you know the ability to drain your wallet, apparently, at least from what I gained from this particular story, does not necessarily need to come from you signing a malicious contract or you getting fished socially on the social interwebs, right? Like, it can happen in real life. It can happen whether, you know, in just a face-to-face meeting. You know, there are very sophisticated people that know how to hack hardware as well. And so to me, it's one of those that you just want to keep your eye on, because I know this year many of us have certain, you know, conventions we want to go to and meetups we want to go to. And man, when I see this, it just rubs me the wrong way, man. You know, to think that there are people out there hunting for these people, for people like us, you know, and if you're putting yourself, you know, if you're wearing a target on your back, like a Bored Ape hoodie or, you know, what have you, like, I don't know what to think. You know, it's just watch your ass, people.
Too many scams happening back to back, man. We need to get like the calendar back to at least like 14 days. Give me 20 days without a scam. Just give me that.
Yeah, okay. If we had one of those counters of like, you know, 20 days since the last NFT, it would always be 0. It's like 0 days since the last scam, 0 days since the last fucking fraud. Yeah.
All right,
Marty, and I am somebody you don't want to mess with, but I'm like used to one-to-one combat on a mat, like, and cowards always attack in fucking packs. So I'm like scared of getting like King Kardashian attacked by like fucking 6 Albanian mobsters and like thrown in a fucking closet and shit. So that's what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, dude. That's like one of my things. I always think, it's like, what would I do? Yeah. You know, I have all kinds of fucking Jason Bourne scenarios running through my head all the time.
I feel like we've been in this space, and I said it in chat there. Like we've been in this space long enough to have like even peripheral thoughts on like what is going on with some of the biggest projects in the NFT space. So I'll push back a little bit on the comments there. But what did Prodigy say? How about they are both trash, and we should sell all of them to me for 1 ETH apiece? I'll take them off your hands. I appreciate it. All right.
Yep.
So here's the situation. We are starting at the end of the show. So for those who just want to get the hell out of here and not talk about Bored Apes and not talk about Yuga and do all these things, that you guys don't have to be here. We're going to talk. We're going straight into Dookey Dash, which I will be streaming later. So we've got about a day and some change left to play Dookey Dash before scores are validated, aka locked. We'll go into some of the details here. Again, we probably got about 10 minutes, but we have more details here.
The game is supposed to end tomorrow.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
But it says scores are validated on the 10th, but I think it's less than 24 hours. Like if you go to the Dookey Dash website, it has a countdown, right?
Yep, I'll bring up a thread. I got some information at least here on the exact time. It says 6 p.m.
Oh,
Eastern.
one day, 3 hours. Okay, so just over 27 hours. Counting down, 27 hours.
Yes, 27 hours countdown. Scores validated. This is all just recent, right? They just populated the website with all this information. The summoning is happening on the 15th. Late February, Lick the Toad. Mech types revealed in early
Biggie,
March.
what does this mean? Biggie,
came through the rift in early April. Journey to Evolution 2.
I think it has to be with some kind of ayahuasca fucking thing that you all will have to go through, and I hope it's for real. That would be hilarious.
I think yeah, that would be amazing. I think that's
you have to take whoever takes the highest dose, like the most licks, like fucking wins. And survives, of course. Like you have to. After that, you have to play Dookey Dash.
I think that's the second trip.
Yeah,
it could be. Yeah,
I mean, it is a trip.
I could see that. Speaking of second trips, and let's keep diving into this. I'll get some of your comments. Quantum Variant is on top of this stuff as well, so I want any comments there. This just got posted this morning. So after we return from the second trip, which might be, to Gibbs' point, after we lick the toad, Otherside Legends of the Mara, a standalone 2D experience powered by ApeCoin with a bunch of unlegible letters. I don't even know what language that's. I think to the point that I'm about to show up, this might be the Coda language, but it says powered by ApeCoin. Otherside.
They got their own cipher. Somebody cracked the code.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, these degens are absolutely ridiculous. It's been like an hour. It's been 2 hours, and this guy also cryptographically unearthed what was being said.
Yeah, this is the cipher right here. This is what we're here for. Legends of the Mara.
Legends of the Mara, and then if you turn it vertically, apparently that's the Shattered Vessels. I'm gonna link this thread so you guys can see it and follow along.
Fucking beautiful work.
Somebody, I guess one of the mods in the Bored Ape Yacht Club Discord was saying, so Otherside mod says someone speaks Coda in reference to this tweet. So all of this is kind of be putting together. Apparently this is Coda. It says the Shattered Vessels without a V.
Dude, I love how they draw from different cultural relics that people appreciate, right? Like this to me is like, man, if you were ever a Trekkie and you were into like Klingon and all that stuff, you know, like and licking the toad, right? And the Dookey Dash, like they're very good at like piecing together like a really cohesive story, but drawing in all these relevant like different passions that degens have, right? From different areas of life. Yeah. It's really, really cool to see, you know?
So this looks like this looks like a poster for
film poster,
like a film poster, right? Like
it looks like a Grindhouse film.
I'll tell you what it looks like.
An anime. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like
I went the anime route when I saw it.
It looks like Lady Snowblood. Let me see.
It looks like a vintage horror poster to me. Like like a Hammer horror film or like a Grindhouse film.
Yeah. Exactly.
Biggie, you got a
Yeah,
new name in chat. Biggie Born.
Oh, I
Biggie
like
born.
Biggie Born. Changing it.
Wait, Biggie, how tall are you?
I am not 6'10". I
He,
am 5'11".
Oh, we're about the same height. Okay.
first trip was after drinking that shit, right? Second trip after licking a toad. Trips may be psychedelic trips.
Yeah.
Squashman saying this is Atari though, right? Like he's deep. Oh, Atari. He's deep in 10KTF and a lot of stuff they have speculated on the puzzle. Why has this come to fruition? I think they said 10KTF PFP drop is day after summoning. It looks like Kill Bill. Someone was saying.
Yeah, that's a great
Squashman.
reference, Squashman.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, so again, we just got this updated. So we have the Play Dookey Dash. To Gifted's point, there's only about a day and like 3 hours left.
A day
in this.
and change. A day and change.
This was a interesting piece. Was like, what were people spending on this game? Right? Like this
Wait, so one question though, like, so Dookie Dash ends, the scores are set. We get to know who was the top scorer, but we still don't get to know the reward until we go through all these other chapters.
I have again. Every single person is speculating.
I think it's good. I think it
If
evolves.
it's like you have to, if it's like the aggregate amount of all these different chapters that actually qualifies you for the grand prize.
Well, so
versus
okay,
just
so
Dookie Dash.
So what some people were speculating is that there's like a power source. So you might get like a power source first, and then it's like that develops different pieces. I think it just evolves, and I don't know what the evolution looks like, but it goes through different trajectories. So I think at the end of it, you'll get a lot of differentiation, but depending on people's choices, like I think people are literally going to get some customizability in their path of choosing a direction or two that will change what their final asset looks like. And so that's what I think it is. Like, I think maybe you'll start with one thing that'll go through a couple steps and you'll build it out. But you might also get a fork where you're like, hey, I can go this direction or this direction, something like that. So I think at the end, you not only will you get like the rarity based upon how you play the game, but also you'll get some kind of customizability as well.
Wow.
This just went. This got posted 2 hours ago. Reminder: Gary the dog invites all sewer pass holders to register now. Something is brewing in the swamp. So there's an update as well from
It's got to be the trip.
Oh, wait,
it's got to be the second trip.
Hold on. That's fake. That's fake.
Okay, that's a scam. That's a scam. Don't go
Sean
click.
John. What the fuck, man? Man, Elon, get your shit together, man. What? I thought this whole verification badge was supposed to solve this.
Oh, this is all fake?
No. This is fine. This
That's
is a comment.
real. Okay.
Ooh.
Sean John is not real.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yikes. You almost saw me get scammed live on air. All right.
Yeah, do not click. There you go. This is why you don't click links.
Yeah.
Don't FOMO.
Okay.
Remember real quick, Yuga Labs is not going to be doing those types of drops. Like actually literally that we just saw, that's not what they're doing anymore. They used to do some of that like FOMO shit where it's like they just drop something and everybody goes like tries to get into it fast. They're not doing that anymore. So just remember that whenever you see fucking like Yuga links out there starting to get you to ape in to click a bunch of shit real quick.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to comment because I thought it was just from the people are calling it GameFi now. I don't know how I feel about that, but Web3 gaming is obviously something we talk about on the channel a bunch. And
anything's better than play to earn.
This is one of the more successful projects when it comes to like its time window to the amount that was spent per user. I think people were making the analogy towards Fortnite, which has like $20 per user. That's their average spend on a monthly basis. I don't know what the stats look like now, based on unique players to this number, if anybody could find that. But
when was this posted?
This was yesterday, so this is new.
Yeah. It's in these last 24 to 48 hours. It's gonna. I bet it gets close to three mil because I just spent for the first time and I spent $40 in ApeCoin just off the bat just to do test it out, and a bunch of people are all going to be spending here in the last 24 to 48 hours.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah. Sewer passes are going up a little bit. Tier 1s are 2.7. Sewer pass tier 4s are 5.9. Biggie, I got your piece here that we'll play in just a second.
Oof, let's go.
Total Ape spent
Mm.
2 mil in 17 days on this game. Of course, like we've mentioned, like there's so many different features to the Bored Ape Yacht Club that are going to make it successful. Obviously, like you can't just take a mini game and attach it to any project now and say it's going to be as successful or even relatively successful. But they had a success. It could have gone poorly. You know, again, like everything that they've done up to this point hasn't really, other than maybe the other side drop.
Yeah.
There's a couple things you can point to, but this is another example. I mean, 2 mil in the bank via Ape. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Gifted was saying potentially. I see you. Gifted was saying potentially that Ape coin could be unlocked by the winner. So again, the top score is 900,000 points. So just to put that into context, I thought I played really well on one of my runs. Like it was one of my bigger runs. I spent the money on the 8 boost and got about 340,000, which put me at the time 500. So I was between the 300 and 500th player in the world. Now that's like 1,000. So I'm like sitting at like 2 or 3,000th in the world. So it's getting harder and harder.
Nifty Q is talking about what do they call it? What's the superior race or whatever? The PC gamer.
We're actual gamers, dude. You guys are not actual gamers. Like Xbox gamers, like 12-year-olds.
Wait. You're misunderstanding something, Q. I am a PC gamer. I just use an Xbox controller. That's a different thing. I have a gaming PC that I play Rocket League on because that's the only way for me to actually get past the ceiling. I had to get a PC eventually. But the Xbox controller is still what I use. I don't use a fucking mouse. I suck with it. And so Nifty Q over here has been, giving me shit all day about how I can't play with a fucking mouse, which is true. And I'm getting my ass beat. But where was I going to go with that? I was going to say something really important and profound. If they were really smart, which I think they are, but here's what I would do if I was them and I had this new wallet of what I would estimate if I'm guessing. I think it'll be between $2.5 to $3 million worth of ApeCoin when this is all said and done, based on that data. If I was them, I think it would be really, really, really smart to cash that out across like 500 people. Obviously, like the top 10 get like weighted high. So like maybe the first place gets $1 million and then it goes down from there. But dude, if you can cash out even a small amount to people that like spent to play it, like then this already becomes like, holy shit, this was like one of the biggest like winnings of any fucking NFT game ever.
Wild if they paid that back. It would be wild if they paid that back to the community. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, could you imagine what kind of noise that would get in the community if everybody was like, holy fuck. Like, yes, they made us play this fucking game for this mint, and there's millions of dollars getting distributed through the fucking pot.
Yeah. I'm over here trying to like get as much info from like the mech reveals. Like here's an interesting tweet, right? Again, you got take this with a grain of salt. Everyone's literally just speculating. But there's an interesting graphic here. Mech types being revealed based on where you finish in Dookey Dash. I know you guys can't really see that. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit. I can barely see it. Top 1% is 570,000. Top 5, 420. Top 10, 320,000. Top 20.
Like top 50.
So
barely.
I'm interested. This says Bored Ape Yacht Club. Did they put out? Is this like a legit? I wonder if that's a. I guess you could just calculate based on the leaderboard as it exists.
I don't know. But here's what I was speculating further with this, and I was telling Nifty Q this, and then actually, what was cool was Mark agreed when I threw this out as like a quick side note that I thought might happen. He thought I was right. And that's that what I discovered, to my chagrin, was not happy to see. When I went to go play with the sewer passes that I picked up on the secondary, they are imprinted with the metadata from the ape tokens from the first people that played, and you cannot change it. And so I fucked up because I sold my tier 4 without imprinting it first with my ape. I fucked up because I think that the imprint from the metadata from the first ape that connected to a sewer pass, plus they take the kennel club. If you've got a kennel club, it takes that metadata too. I think all of that is going to impact the final traits and the evos, the evolutions or whatever of where this all goes to. So part of the customizability and part of the rarity and part of like what it all looks like, I think is going to be directly related to the traits of whatever token, whatever ape, whatever character you were playing Dookey Dash with. And it makes sense because you're going through this journey. You're dashing through the sewer with your character, with your ape, and then they're going to lick a toad and transform. Something's going to happen.
We're getting into that complexity chasm that we talked about on the like Biggie. When you're looking at all this shit that we're showing, you're on that, right?
I don't. Yeah, I'm just like it's a bit too much.
It's the first time you've done that.
One thing that I would ask is did you see what apes imprinted those passes? Like maybe they were rare ones and it's a good one.
Well, no, they're two mutants. Well, one of them looks okay, like maybe it's like mid-tier, mid-low. One of them is definitely low tier, but apparently the tier 3 that I bought in has a pretty cool ape imprinted on it. I don't know if I can I see it, Q? Can you show me what the ape looks like?
Oh yeah,
you said there was a pretty cool ape that actually imprinted on that tier 3 that you said you're never gonna send me back.
I can bring it. Yeah. Well,
so I'm actually very excited that at least one of the token that I put the most into, I got in a tier 3. That Q is going mercenary for me on. That one does have apparently a pretty decent ape imprinted on it. It
looks pretty cool. Like I don't see a white hair ape a lot. So this is interesting. Let me see if I can bring it in. This is Gifted's way to get me to show him. Okay, you can kind of see it right there.
Oh heck yeah!
Oh,
wait.
Sorry, I'm having some. I just can't zoom in enough. Like tells me I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. He's got a flannel shirt and a hat. What's on his eyes? Does he have? Are they closed?
Rose
he's got glasses. Yo, that's sick. White hair ape with glasses and a fucking hat and flannel shirt, dude. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, so we're playing this tonight, folks. I got 3. So this is Gifted's tier 3 right here. I've got a tier 2, a tier 4, and then Prodigy has my other one, and he's been grinding. Although Prodigy, get your shit together Biggie, on the points, man. Let's go.
So Biggie, so you can see also in the little circles there next to his two, he's got the Kennel Club dogs matched too. So they're imprinted. Okay. But so Biggie, once you've basically you've done this once, you've played the game once, you've imprinted these, you cannot change it. So these sewer passes, even if you go sell it on the secondary, that is the ape or the token that is stuck to it. So you can replay and change the score, but that is the metadata that's imprinted on it, other than the score. So that's what we're talking about.
Okay, so I will be streaming this later. We can dive in. I love the comments that come through while I'm streaming Dookey Dash because you guys know a lot of times like guys like Quantum Variant and guys that are involved can help figure out this complex, kind of piece together information, right, from the sources that you have. The last thing I'll say on it, again, February 8th, so tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, that is when we're locked in. We'll start to see what the higher level sewer pass scores go for. That's an interesting concept, right? You're getting 700,000. You paid a gamer $500 and you're able to sell a sewer pass for 10 grand more than maybe you thought. There's just some game theory there.
Dude, Prodigy's comments are cracking me up over here, bro.
And then the burn your pass to mint is on February 15th. So the reveal Biggie happens on the 15th for these passes.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Good.
One week out. 1 week out from today.
Okay. Last thing we're doing, a long episode here. I'm gonna try. I know it bites into your day when it's 2 hours. I know how it goes. So I'll try my best, fellas, to be better at that. But we're sitting at 2 hours. What's this from Based as Fuck, Biggie? What do we got?
I just saw it. I have no clue. Apparently, Cody saw the video or something or responded, and so I don't know. We can play it if you guys are down.
Hell yeah, I'm down.
Well, do we want to do it? Yeah, let's just do it now. Or we can maybe talk about it again tomorrow. But yeah.
I'm coming to you with a very special emergency briefing. We have an enemy in our midst. A floppy-haired, ingrown pube called Cody fucking...
Yeah, okay, so yeah, my hair's a little big and unkempt right now, alright? Don't say anything about it. I'm fragile. I'm a fragile guy, and you hurt my feelings. So don't do that anymore. The whole comment section of that video is like 5,000 comments making fun of me.
I don't mean no offense, but better get it off my chest. Don't want me any regrets, and so I gotta confess to protest to this mess. You think the metaverse is lame, yo? Are you insane, bro? You just said the same about the web back in the day, though. It's also easy to jump from the sector fashion to fashion, but this is bigger than meta could ever try and cash in on.
Okay, that looked like it was pieced together a little bit. There was probably like a bigger video.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how his initial reaction is, because I know there's like a bigger trailer coming out about the whole marathon, the preparation for it, and everything. So this is good, fellas. I do like that it came upon his radar, and he knows we're out there, ready to troll them.
Is he participating in the troll, or is he serious? Is he like?
I think he's starting. I don't know if he was in it originally or not, but he might have been.
He's catching on.
Hey, yeah. They
might. And it behooves him to write it, right? Like, I mean, I think it's friendly trolling, but we'll get him on our side. I do believe there's some cool content coming up soon from the Baseheads crew. I know they've been hard at work, and then some extra alfalfa I can't talk about just yet, but it involves these three people in the screen so far. So I'll tell you about that later, boys. But there's some cool stuff coming. Oh yeah.
All right, guys, you guys and gals that made it to the end of the episode, we appreciate you so much. If you haven't left a like, please do so now. It definitely helps us get the word out about what we're doing here on the Web3 Network. We got new shows in the past 7 days. We got awesome creators like Kane Mayfield, Easy and Crypto getting after it. I've got these guys up here, Biggie Poppins, Gift Dead, that are just coming daily with the good stuff, with the good alfalfa. All right, we are getting up out of here. The last thing I will say is our Vibe, our tribe. Prodigy, I see you in chat. We will be streaming Dookey Dash later with that duo stream, so that's going to be fun.
Let's go.
Otherwise, Bitcoin NFTs. Hopefully you got some good knowledge out of today's episode. Let's go Gifted, and then Biggie, because you brought that fantastic guest on, Mark, who I'm going to just call Merc the rest of his life. I'll let you go last, but Gift, go ahead, and then we'll go out with Biggie.
Yo, I'm just blessed to keep getting to hang out with y'all. And Fuss Pod premiere, check it out if you haven't already. Let us know what you think. Big love. Our Vibe, our tribe.
I love you, fellas. I love our chat, our vibe, our tribe. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.